Okay, week 7, we are rolling right along. For your Monday items, I'm going to have you, this is the only time in this class we look at SEO. So, SEO is search engine optimization, and it's really for when you are focused on the marketing side of trying to get websites to show up in search engines, that you become someone who understands those things. So just to be clear, if I go to Google and I type boots, right, there's going to be ads that show up from these companies who buy ads on Google, which of course Google wants you to do. Okay. And you can tell here hours differ, but these are still ads right here. Now, once we come to this is what we call the first organic, which means it naturally shows up on Google as the first choice. But that is really hard to tell when you look here. But the key is it's ads. Now, it's not to say you shouldn't use Google Ads, you totally can, but what you want to do is end up here in the organic as high as you can. And how do you do that? Well, how do you do that is really it's really becoming like anything else, understanding the world of search engine optimization. So for this item, coming back to our class, I have searched for some new content this year. And I looked at, I always look for, when I look for content, I look for what can I find that's new and what can I find that I think has got good content, right? So those are my things, good content and relatively new. The one I'd used before in this class was a little bit older, but I thought it was good. And watching this, and you'll need to watch this for up to the 30-minute point of this video, although if this is something you're interested in, this is a good place to start. The name of the company is called Income School. Anyway, this is the basics. And actually, it's called the Complete Guide to SEO. Okay. So again, you're only watching part of it. So here's what you need to do is create a new file in your private repo in the folder, call it SEO, and inside there, create a file that should say file and name it Guide to SEO. And inside that folder, oh, that's right, create. Inside that folder, create a file and name it. How about that? Name it Guide to SEO. Okay. Now, once you're done, do your Git workflow, provide me a link to your commit history and your submissions. Okay. And I always appreciate this is always like, I know these guys aren't the most, there's 2 gentlemen doing this. They're not the most like dynamic, but I can tell pretty well within 10 minutes and sometimes within 5 if people are giving very genuine knowledge that they have, and these guys filled that bill for me, so that's why I chose it. Okay, let's come back here. So that's your lecture for today, and then we're on week 7. I'm going to talk about this one because we're going to end with this hands-on. Okay, so for the current topics, they're front-end frameworks. So we're using a front-end framework called Bootstrap that you, by now, you're like, yeah, Rio, I know that. And it's not like you're being introduced to it. But there are many out there, okay? So what I want you to do is everyone choose a different one. So I've given you a link here to the top 10, right? And there's a link out on Classic Infomix. There's also, if you scroll down and look at some others, but this will just give you a good list. And these are focused on JavaScript frameworks, but most of the front-end frameworks are JavaScript frameworks. So what you want to do is choose one, right? And do a little research about it. Try to understand it. What are the benefits? Why do people use it, right? Educate yourself a little bit about the topic, right? And so select a different one, right? Do some research, framework details, and research it in 158 words and 2 replies. So, give us some links to sites or videos that you've looked at. But again, this is, and you each need to choose something different. If you choose something that's already been chosen by a student prior to your post, I will ding your points a little bit. So just don't do that. Just briefly look through and see what everybody's choosing. Okay, really important topic. So now, week 7. I need to roll these up. Do you guys do that? Do you roll these up? Like when we're finished? I just finished grading week 5. So I'm a little ahead, which I'm happy about. So here's the deal. Now what I want to do is, now that you did this last week, is you built your site from the template. Okay. And so for me today, as I pulled this up and started looking at it, I realized that my site, and I'm just going to show it to you here, was not operating the way I wanted it to. It wasn't rendering that nice little navigation at the top. And I believe I had mentioned that before. So what I realized today is that I needed to add this jQuery and this jQuery easing into my vendor. Okay, so if there's some functionality that for some reason you just didn't get over when you built your site from the template, right? Now's the time to fix some of that. Okay, so for right now, all I have is this index page, right? And now, hopefully through doing what you did last week with analyzing it, you now have at least a pretty good idea how this HTML and CSS, or CSS classes related to Bootstrap, create this site, okay? Notice my little navigation. What that is that white, div here is what I was talking about. So what I'm going to walk you through, and it will see, and I'll be honest, I haven't done it for this new site. And sometimes I pre-do things so I make sure I catch all those things. But I think it's also helpful for you to kind of watch sometimes how people troubleshoot something. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of download, right, because this is the idea, is I'm showing you how to create a new page. And remember, as I talked about before, on this site, when you click on one of these items, it goes to the same page, right? And it goes to just a anchor tag in the HTML itself. Now, again, in your analysis, you will learn this, hopefully, but in this case, I can see it right here, is the href is actually when you see pound and the name, that means it's going to that place in the document. So what you would do is you can scroll through and find where that's at. That's really how you figure out where it's at. Now I could, there it is, download right there. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. That is it. I'm just thinking. Yeah, that is the section, right? Let's just make sure. Yeah, discovering all the buzz. Right on. That's cool. So that is it. It's the ID here. Now, IDs, as we know, can be used in different ways. Okay, but in this case, they're used in the section, and it's a section, right? So it's not a div; it's a section. And then they're using the ID of. Now, by the way, we can test that. You know how we can test that? Is actually call this demo. If we call that demo and then we click here, it won't work. Why? Because that is no longer matching up. Because when it says href, let me come back here, right? That's what it's looking for. So what we're going to do is, as I've told you before, I want you to create pages, right? So we're going to actually go through and create a page that actually, instead of linking to somewhere in that subpage, actually links to another document. All right, so here's what we're going to do. First step is I'm going to go ahead and create that file. Again, remember where we're at. We're in our GitHub IO. I have my index file open, and I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call this new. I could keep this simple. .html. Okay. Now, right now, there's nothing here, right? So what I do is go over to my index page. I would do Control A to copy all of it. And I would come over here and Control V. Now this just creates the physical file. We haven't done anything in the code. So like if you were to go over, now I'm looking at this rendered on my local computer. Those changes I'd want to see, I'd have to hit refresh, okay? That download's still there, but if I wanted to see that new, I'd say new.html here. And that would show me what looks like identical to the index. And it is identical right now. So now I'm going to show you how to change this, okay? Or how to create that link. The other thing you'd want to do here is probably do some cleanup on this, because one thing I would probably do is end up, as we move forward in this class and we create this menu, right, is have a page that's kind of a scaled down version. Otherwise, you're always cleaning it up, which, is not necessarily bad as well. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to index, the original index page, and where it says download, I'm going to change this to new.html. Oh, okay. So I'm changing it from an anchor tag to a place in the page to an actual physical file. So that's step one. And this refresh now, when I click this, instead of going to that location, oh, actually, let's go back. My bad. Let's actually go here. Now, because these pages are so the same, it's hard to tell which one you're on. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to hit this, and I can see based on my address window that it did change to that page, but again, it's a little hard to know. So let's just give it a little content or get rid of some content. I might go, instead of new age, I'm going to call it new page. Okay, so I'm going to hit refresh. Oh, see? And this is what could happen too. Anybody see what I did wrong? That change I just did, I did in my index, which was really, and we can change this reference too, right? Let me click here. Oh yeah, it's going to go to the top. See, that's another one we got to change. I'm just going to go back to here, and oh, that's the one. So I'm going to undo, Control Z. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go to my index, my new page, and then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to get rid of that content. Okay, new page. Now when I'll click on change this in a minute. I'm just kind of showing you, and you can do this in whatever order, but so I'm going to click here. It's going to go to new. It's going to have the new page so I can see which one I'm on, right? Now the other thing we'll have to fix is, notice when I hit this start, it's actually also, and you can tell this by looking here, up here, I can see this reference here, that is a anchor, and so I want that to be the index page. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So I'm making sure I'm on the right page, right? I'm here, I'm in the masthead. Scroll through, just look for a minute. This looks good. So what I'm going to do is go back to my index page, and in here, where it says new, where I changed it here, now this is actually the link text. So new page. Nice, right? That looks good. And now I'm going to, let's do one step at a time. Okay. So I'm going to go back. There is my index. Now, remember, and this is true when you're looking at it on the web, I'm looking at it locally through live server. You might just have the page open on your browser. But when you go to index.html, right, to the site, because that's the default page, sometimes it won't show up in the address bar, but it is what gets called by the server to render. So see that new page here? That's awesome. So if I click here, oh, that's awesome. So let's fix, now there's a couple things I got to fix here, because, and this is part of the challenge with a multiple page site. And part of the reason we have newer technology like frameworks to create sites is that it does some of this work for you. But I like in a beginning class that you get to see some of this just fundamental stuff that happens on a multi-page site. So let's clean up those couple of things that we saw. We saw that this is, even on the new page, this is still saying download. So we'd want it to say new. Okay. And we want to fix this to where when you click on Start Bootstrap, that would be the name of your page, right? So let's fix this one first. Now I'm here, right? So on the new one, on the page itself, I had changed the content there. So I'd want to do this. I'd want to go new. I call it new. Yeah. Okay. And again, remember, now this is also a place, and I'll show you this. So even though we already have it loaded, right, you can almost take off the page, the link reference here, but we're going to go ahead and put it back on. And I believe from looking at my analysis, there's an active class. Oh yeah, look what happens when I do that active class. Again, your sites here are going to be different. I'm just showing you the logic of working through creating new pages, okay? That's cool, right? So if I come back here, again, let's fix this now. Now we're going to fix it on both the index page, right? So on the index page where it says start, I'm going to say my site, okay? And then instead of there, I'm going to say we're going to open up the index.html. Now that's on the index page, and it may seem a little weird, right? But in this case, I could either copy this reference, or I could just go over to here, find that on the Bootstrap, on the content, I'd say my site. And then here again, we would change it to index.html. Wowzer. This is cool. So now, and by the way, look how, and that's because I'm using this thing called Live Server, but if you click here, now it takes you back to the index page. Oh, look, I need to fix that. I called it new and new page. So let's get it right. So on the new here, let's call it new page. Cool. Now I have it consistent, and on the new page, it links back. So that's why here, the thing I would recommend that I'm not making you do, but I would recommend you do is like on these sub pages, you probably don't want all these divs, right? And what I mean by that, if we scroll down after the masthead and we start looking at, I think this div right here makes up the, let's see which one that is. Oh, it's actually down in here. This was like the first one, right? That download section that we now no longer have might make sense to get rid of. Now, it might be a little weird to get rid of it. Now I'm on the new page. So if I got rid of it here, let's just say, okay, so let's go back here. We're on the index. I'm going to click to my page. And if I scroll down to where those downloads were before, oh, they're gone. That section. Now, how can I verify that? Is I can go back to the home page, which still has it, right? And it's going to be there. I think it's there. See, it makes me wonder now, like where was that on the index page? You can always do undo. Oh yeah, see, that was it. So the thing is, and this is where I'll kind of stop here, is like my recommendation is to clean up, have, maybe you can call it something else. Matter of fact, if I was doing this again, and maybe you could follow my advice if you've watched to this point, is I might call this a template page that I could then use to copy once I get it cleaned up the way I want it. Okay. So again, this is where your what you've learned about this will in your analysis will be very helpful. Okay. I don't know why that's still bugging me, but it is. Okay, go to the index page. And if I go down to, because I can downloads. Oh yeah. Must have gotten rid of it, but I didn't get rid of it on the index page. See, it's going to make me figure it out. Oh, I did. I must have, let's go back down here, masthead, download. Oh yeah, see, it is right there, discover. Okay, and then on the index page, I got rid of that section. So this is going to feel very oh, I didn't, I put it back. So it's the yellow one. So let me get rid of it, right? So now I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to go to my index page. I'm going to scroll down and I no longer see that yellow. Yeah, so now this is a different yellow section. Okay, I hope this helps you at least see how working through this. So what you want to do to submit this first is go ahead and do the version control for your site. Right, we've already talked about single page apps. So here's what I want you to do is I want you to publish yours, provide a link to it, and talk about anything that you want to, because your site's going to look different, anything that you want to understand, or need some help on, or if you were able to get through this with no issue, right? So were you able to do it? If not, what did you run into? Make sure you reach out for help, because we created a new page on your GitHub IO site from what we did last week, which is build it. Okay, talk to you later.